Hello, friends. This is Chandrakant from Akulmach Technologies, and welcome to the roundtable, weekly roundtable that we have. And let me quickly invite our guest, our panelists. First is Ms. Farida Charania from Singapore. She is the CEO of Career Zoom.
Hi.
Second is Ms. Kanchan Verma. She is the CEO of Akulmach Technologies. She joins us from India.
Hello.
And finally, last but not the least, my friend from London, Mr. Neville Gund. He is the chairman of MindFit Limited.
Good morning, everybody.
So, good morning. And today's topic is basically the job situation. And as we all know and concur that the global job situation has completely changed, and the old jobs are not being asked for. The reskilling has been a major subject of discussion today. So the point for us to discuss and probably inform the people and our viewers about the types of jobs now available and the types of jobs that employer needs today. So without further ado, with this topic for discussion, let me invite Farida. Farida, you work with a lot of companies world over and you are in the business of recruitment. So I think you are the best person to take this as a first question. What is the type of jobs now available globally post-COVID?
Sure. I'm just going to talk about the sectors which were impacted negatively and then the sectors which are impacted positively. So, sectors which are negatively impacted and might take a very long time to come back to the pre-COVID era are tourism, transport, retail, and hospitality. And sectors which actually kind of started getting impacted positively are e-commerce, digital media and entertainment, video conferencing services, health and wellness, healthcare, e-learning, supermarkets, delivery logistics, warehousing, storage, e-commerce, pharmaceuticals, robotics, streaming, and again, the video conferencing services, etc. So now, when we look at the sectors which are impacted positively, let's pick up a few skills which I see very often with my clients and they kind of look for. First of all, they look for flexibility. So, flexibility means that someone who's done a certain type of job in a certain environment, is that person flexible enough to actually do it in a different environment? Like, for instance, is it very necessary for this person to be sitting in office and doing their work, or they are okay to do it from anywhere, like the way world is today? Technical skills, definitely, because everything that was real estate is now digital assets. So definitely technical skill. Data analysis, because that's a very very important portion of anything that is done in the e-commerce, or anything that has a digital layer. Critical thinking, because someone who can actually take a thing and very easily transform into a b thing, and is able to actually very quickly adapt, is a skill that is a skill that employers definitely look for. And of course, digital and coding skills and emotional intelligence, because it's not very easy to work in isolation. So these are skills, soft skills and hard skills, that I see very often my clients looking for.
Okay, great. So I think now we have a clarity in terms of what type of skills are now required by the companies world over. And let me invite Mr. Naval Gund. Naval, actually, you work with a lot of youngsters, a lot of middle management people, giving them training. Your company is, always engaged in many such sorties across the world with many countries. What is your opinion on this subject?
Well, as Farida was mentioning there, it's a long list as ever. It's a huge list. And if we can pull the fragments out of that list that have been important forever, but now all of a sudden they're rising to the top. It's a bit like, we've had lots of milk and here's the cream. And this cream has taken a little bit of time to rise to the top. And we're talking about, fundamentally, we're talking about good soft skills, because these are traditionally what they call transferable skills. Empathy, how to be a good leader, which is somewhat different from empathy, as people seem to be calling it, how to be a good communicator, how to work in a team. These aren't technical specific issues. These are global issues that we need to get over. And then we've got this massive change. COVID has done one thing. It's taken all of the traditional homes for, well, if I can't get a job here, I'll go into hospitality. You know, there's always been a job in hospitality, no matter where you are, whether it's flipping burgers or it's waiting on tables or it's the maitre d', there's always been a job in hospitality until today. As Farida said, this one is going to be probably the longest one that will return to some sort of normality. And even then, the job will change, because even before that, the digital arena had come into some restaurants where you literally just sit at your table and you press bits on your table, and actually you're doing the ordering on your table or maybe on an app. So things are changing quite fundamentally. And I'm going to go back to the very first thing that Farida said, adaptability. We've got to learn to be adaptable. We're not very adaptable, frankly. And people that are looking for jobs are looking for jobs in the old way. You know, I'm an electrical engineer at university. I'm looking for an electrical engineering job. Well, it may not be there. So what else are you going to look for? So that narrow issue, we need to be adaptable. So what skills have I got? We need to ask ourselves the question. I may be technically developed to be a mathematician or a physicist or something, but I need now to know what those skills could do somewhere else. And the obvious place actually is teaching. People are rushing back into teaching because now that's becoming a home for the graduate professional. Never thought of teaching before, but now they're thinking of teaching now. But again, you know, teaching, you can't just, because you got a degree in engineering, you can't just go stand up in front of a class and start teaching, because guess what? It's here. It's digital teaching. And we all know that that's a different arena. So I'm going to focus on this word adaptability, really, because if we don't adapt to the circumstances of today, because they're not going to go back to what yesterday was. So we need to be future focused. So I think my word for the day, word for this session, is adaptability. I've nicked it from Farida.
Great. So I think learning from two great leaders, the job scenario is completely changed. And obviously the jobs are created by the university. I mean, the skills are created by the universities so that jobs can be fulfilled. But those jobs which universities are teaching, education institutes are teaching, are no longer applicable. So let me ask this question from Kanchan, because she works with the universities and education institutes. Are these, pillars of our education doing enough to create new skills so that the new jobs which are available now can be filled?
Yeah, I will be answering this question a bit later, but I would like to express a few finer points from July 2020. There is a rise in job in terms of Indian market, because there are some jobs in media, there are some jobs in railways, there are some jobs in education. So there's a little rise in job situation, and even pass out students can opt for government jobs like police, though currently in some part of India police is in question, but other part of states and cities, they can opt for this job. Now coming to the question is that definitely the new skills are required, because one skill which is not taught is flexibility. The second skill which is not taught in school is team building and communication. And as communication also, there are a few classes in few schools, they are teaching communication, but not as a hard skill, which is very much required, not only in India, but across the world. So these few skills are required, a part of technical knowledge, where student is taught maybe coding, but he should be good in maths also. If one student is good in maths, he should also be good in uh, doing online drawing, or maybe something like Doodle, where he can express, I can make these images and incorporate in presentation, that gives a kind of substantial rise in the career. And apart of this, I also feel that though jobs are available, as one of the companies like Tata company uh, a few week back said that firing will not solve the problem. So in this case, companies are also adjusting themselves, and they have come to the conclusion that firing will not help, because we need manpower to really pursue whatever manufacturing or servicing business are going on. So now companies are also realizing, and what I feel is that now companies are hiring people with multiple skills. And in colleges and in schools, I think this is a high time when these skills should be taught, so that we can take up smart professionals and hire good employees for the company for the products.
So thank you, Kanchan. So see, as far as my knowledge goes about the market here, by and large, I feel that the jobs which are available now are in 3 to 4 categories, where jobs are still available in abundance. And those categories are communication. So if you are a smart communicator, there is a job for you in the market. Companies are looking for these smart communicators. If you are in AI, then the jobs are available, because there are a lot of work happening in AI. The humans will be eventually replaced by AI in some of these mundane jobs, and there is a lot of development happening in that area. And the first job is in terms of transformation, because with all these transformation, the organization also required specialists who can actually take the organization on this path. So it's very easy to say that, hey, the world has changed, it's new normal, but who's going to take that new normal ahead without disrupting the business as much as possible? So these are the three different jobs which are in high demand at this point in time. So I leave the floor open to take your comments on this.
I'll take this. So I'm just going to pick up from where CK was just talking about. Let me try to give it some kind of a structure. Whatever the future brings, the workers who adapt will remain the most relevant. So, what do we take away from this? Adapt. Now, skills, communication, for instance, like CK was mentioning. So, we are talking about customer relations. AI, so you're talking about digital skills, coding, software programming, then soft skills, like Kanchan was mentioning, emotional intelligence, flexibility, digital marketing. These are all skills which are necessary to stay globally relevant. And because of the higher unemployment or people working fewer hours, the impact of pandemic has been felt on all jobs to more or less extent in all countries. Now, where when someone is looking for a job, what is it that we will recommend? So I have a few recommendations here. That firstly, focus on finding a job where you can work remotely, because that could be an important decision to make when you apply for your next role. Again, if you're looking for a job while the sudden spikes of the COVID-19 pandemic remain a risk in general population, it becomes very, very crucial that you look for something where you can work remote or you can work from home. Even if you have to change your sector, uh, don't consider it a permanent move, because COVID is not here forever, but it's going to be there for some time. And once things recover, maybe some years down the line, your preferred industry could make a strong resurgence and could come back as well. But at this point in time, it's very important to focus very carefully on here and now. It is perhaps sensible to look carefully at positions that offer short to medium term security at least, so you can ride out the worst of the pandemic. And that may mean freelance working somewhere else, or finding a temporary contract to keep you on track for the rest of 2020. So, having said that, the pain is there and it's not going to be all hunky dory. But when you start looking for, jobs, try to look for positions which are either freelance opportunities, opportunity to work from home, and, a structure or a product that can thrive despite of social distancing. That would be my recommendation.
We can't hear you, Kanchan. You need to put your volume on. Still can't hear you, I'm afraid. Sorry. Maybe it's Chandra that needs to turn his volume on.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay,
That's
fine.
it.
Can you hear me now? Can.
Oh, we've lost you again. You see Chandra creeping back in. You can't hide with this, It's live.
Yes, I've corrected the problem which was with the mic. So Kanchan, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was saying that I fully agree with Farida, but I think especially in the context of India, there is around 75% rise, 95,000 jobs are available, especially in government sector, like railways, like banks and finance. So I think people who are opting for government jobs, they have a lot of opportunities. But yes, somebody who wants to go in private sector, they must have skills which are required. That is emotional intelligence, emotional well-being, and of course, a flexibility of working.
Yeah, I think the what we're seeing, and certainly Farida's mentioned it. There are jobs available, and the key thing here is, I think Chandra, you said AI. AI is big business, but the interesting thing, AI, as far as I can see, they need programmers, they need strategists. So unless you have a particular skill in that arena, there's a lot of retraining that you might have to do to get into the jobs that are currently available. So this is a bit of being smart. The nice thing we've got is something called Google. We can always Google it. What skills are needed for this? What skills are needed for that? This person has said it's these skills. What does that mean? So if you don't understand necessarily the job descriptions that are out there, do some research. If you're looking for a job, you have plenty of time on your hands. The time now is to be very focused in what you're doing. Not to say, I must have a job, I need a job, because that little gremlin that you have in the back of your head somewhere will constantly be nagging away every single time you look at the screen and you're trying to focus. So you need to be laser focused now onto what skills you've got, and then go and trial search. As I say, Google is a brilliant place. You can list down a number of items with a comma after it, and all of a sudden you'll get all the news headlines from what's being said about all of those particular subjects. So this is the time, I think, for those that are struggling in this arena, is to start focused and getting some very good research around you. Remember, the job you're looking for could actually be outside your front door. but it might be, halfway around the earth. It could be 10, 12,000 miles away in a digital arena. A lot of the words that Chandra was saying, there's jobs in communication. Communication is a huge word, and you need to understand what communication is. That's not telecoms, that's not being, plug and play and sticking things into PCs. It's how to communicate your message. A marketeer, there are plenty of jobs in marketing, and all of these marketeers are very good at translating the message that's currently being said into a message that people understand. So you're putting the company directly in touch with their customer base. So now's the time not to be worried about it, not to be panicked about it, because neither of those two things are going to help you. You need to get your mind in the right place, set aside a certain amount of time of day, and whatever you do, don't do it as I see a lot of graduates do. They sit in front of a PC for 6 hours, constantly researching and researching and researching. Now, I'm nearly 62 years old. I don't sit in front of a PC for 6 hours. I'm tired after about 25 minutes of very focused type of research. And I'm no different to anybody else. So take breaks, have a glass of water by the side of your PC. Do the simple things, use a diary, set a timer. If you haven't got a timer, if you're using your mobile for all this searching and you can't put the timer on there, then get another timer. Go into the kitchen and set the timer on the oven so that, it beeps away at you. There are lots of ways you can get around this issue, and stop saying I can't and start saying I can. Because there's opportunity for you if you, and I'm going to pinch this word again, I'm afraid, if you're adaptable. And the sad thing is, not many people are. And that's why, if you are adaptable, I will guarantee you'll get a job. Because there are plenty of jobs out there.
So I think the first thing that people need today is basically understand what is the reality and adapt to it. So I think, you don't want to be like an ostrich, bury your head and not look at the reality around. So I think the reality is very, very clear that the jobs which were available earlier are not available now. And what is new, as Neville said, a job may be 12,000 miles away from your location. So I think time has come to really become digital, find out what are the jobs which are there. For instance, let me throw some examples. If you look at the media business, that was such a thriving business world over, and different kinds of media being sold by everyone, news to entertainment to movies to anything else, and people makes billions of dollars out of this revenue. In fact, it is one of the biggest grosser of the industry anywhere in the world. What has happened now? There are no new movies in the theaters because the artists have not gone for recording because there is COVID lockdown everywhere. So where will you shoot the new movies? So I think there is a gap. People still need to be entertained. How they get entertainment? There is a digital arena which can be used. So the media can be simply shift from that place to the digital space. So I think this is where the opportunities are. There are a lot of opportunities in the marketing arena. There are a lot of opportunities in influencers because the old way of advertising is gone. There is no advertisers now looking at the content because the content is not there at all. The old type of content. The new content, that means new advertisers are coming in. So you need to create the new content, become an influencer, become a good marketeer, digital marketeer, become a media professionals, become an AI, become data scientist, become a transformation expert, or become a good communicator. So I think these are the opportunities which are available in abundance. What do you guys have to say about this?
I think I'll pick this up here. When you talk about artificial intelligence, it's a very broad umbrella, and people start getting worried, oh, my job is going to go away. So, the World Economic Forum actually predicts that about 75 million jobs will be displaced with AI. But at the same time, 133 million new jobs will be created, because end of the day, a machine can do repetitive tasks. At least in my knowledge, I don't think that it will replace humans. It will augment human life. It will augment the human experience. It will take away the work which is very repetitive, monotonous, admin. It will take away that work and give the user data which is actually mined in the proper format for them to take actions. So basically, jobs are not going away. Robots are not going to become your they are not going to kind of take away your job. They are perhaps going to help you to make better decisions, to do things which you can do much better if you are engaged. It will not take away the human touch at all. At least I don't think so. Maybe I'm old, but I don't think it's going to happen, at least in the next 50 years or what. So the thing is that there are opportunities. Yes, of course, the pay scales probably have gone down because every industry has suffered. And then, the way you actually deliver your services also changed. Like Chandra was just now mentioning, that entertainment is kind of moved, because movies are not being released in theaters. You see all of them being released on OTT platforms. Influencers, yes, advertising is changed completely. In fact, yesterday somebody presented a strategy to me, and it's an advertising firm, so it's actually a PR firm, and they presented a strategy. And I think they've had a very steep learning curve, because they have realized that if they give me 100,000 budget, and $100,000 of budget, and if they give me the same things which everybody else was doing 6 months ago, I'm just going to listen to them out of respect but not do anything about it. So they came back with some very smart strategies, which was using some of these influencers to actually drive the message, use soft power to attract people, use inbound rather than outbound. So I think that world is changing, and definitely, if the individual is adaptable, again, I'm going to take my word back. If you can adapt to lead, there are a lot of opportunities for you.
You're absolutely right, and the thing is, I'm gonna pinch it again, but don't worry about that. You mentioned the I think the critical part here that we need people to focus on is that Farida's absolutely right. For every job that AI will take, and remember, it's taking the repetitive jobs away, and we know something about repetition. It's boring. Who wants to be boring? If anyone's listening to this and want to be boring, just don't listen to anything else we're going to say, because no one wants to be boring and no one wants to listen to someone that's boring. And that's what robots are there for. AI is a robot. It is doing repetitive tasks that somebody's programmed. So for every job that's taken away, which I say, tick that box, let's get rid of them very quickly, there's probably at least 2, if not 3, that will replace that job. The issue is, the likelihood is, it will be at a more technical level. So I think something that we need to realize is we need to become a bit more technically minded. Now, that might just be using an app in the way the app's designed. So you don't have to go on a university course to be technically minded. You just have to Google something and find out what you need to know to have the sufficient technical skills to get ahead of the curve. There used to be a phrase in business many years ago, and it was about consultants. A good consultant is only there because they're half an hour better than the staff. And if you think about that, I see Farida's laughing there, and Chandra's trying to break a smile, because we've all been consultants and we've all hired consultants. And that's really what a consultant's just ahead of the curve. That's what you're paying for. You're paying for someone just ahead of the curve. It might be a long curve or a short curve, but the point is, that's why they're a consultant. That's why they're the expert. And we will always need experts. The more AI comes in, the bigger requirement there will be for specialists. So if you really enjoy something that you're doing, become the specialist in that particular part. And it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a plumber, an architect, a sculptor, just become the expert. And just picking up what Farida said, this influencer arena, ironically, I was told that I'm one of the 100 top influencers in the world in a particular subject. I've no idea why that's the case, and it doesn't really bother me. But the point is, if you get to an influencer, understand what they're saying and what they're doing, and be the influencer in your specific arena. Because we're crying out for specialists. And the more specialist you become, the easier the jobs will be that are coming out there. You may even create a new area that people haven't thought of before, and then be happy and drive hard on it. Be very focused and enjoy it. One word that as the older we get, the more important this word becomes. I love my job. What does that mean? Because if you don't love it, get another one. Simple as that, really.
To
I'd
add,
like to share.
there are
Sorry,
jobs.
go
There
ahead.
are jobs, and job seeker need not to worry. Just enhance their skills and be positive and have flexibility and adaptability. So they will get job of their choice.
Okay, so I like to just share a funny incident from yesterday. Somebody reached out to me and said, I'd like to have a chat with you. And I know the person, so I said, okay, let's talk. And they actually told me that they are offering a second opinion. So that person has actually made it their business. So they are offering a second opinion for a fee. Quite a novel idea, and initially I laughed, but I was actually thinking, yes, I mean, it is lonely at the top.
It's very smart. It's very smart.
Yes, and it is fairly lonely at the top. I don't have anyone to, kind of bounce my thoughts off, because mostly people are going to agree with me if I talk to my team. And I mean, I respect this person, so I wouldn't mind paying to take a second opinion. So people can get very creative and they can find some niches in there. So I'm just saying that the sky is the limit. We are very fortunate to be in a digitally enabled world where we can actually, give our services online. You could be sitting thousands of miles away and still be able to do work for somebody that far away from you. So well, I mean, it's not that the impact is really serious with this pandemic, but some good will come out of it, because very overrated stuff like brick and mortar is definitely becoming passé. So there would be opportunities, and yes, if you need a second opinion, I can do it for a fee.
I think someone might call that coaching, but maybe coaching is a bit historic, but a second opinion. I've heard of people that are offering second opinions, and it made me laugh, because immediately I thought, well, that's a real interesting gimmick. And of course, that's what you've got to do to get into the market these days. You've got to have a gimmick. You've got to have, as someone might have said years ago, you've got to have an angle to get in, a bit of leverage. There's all these wonderful words in the dictionary that we can utilize, but fundamentally, we've all got it. It's about time we start to use it.
So great. I think we had a very good conversation today, and learning from the leaders like yourself. It has been a great value to our viewers. I'm sure they will be able to change their job scenario, take some of these tips that we have discussed today, and find the reskilling opportunities for themselves and find appropriate job for themselves. So with this message, I would like to end this discussion today, and I'd like to thank you, all of you, Farida, Kanchan, and Neville. Thanks for your input, and we will catch up next Friday.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Enjoy Halloween.
Bye.
The big news is that the EU has decided to standardize uh, all devices on a USB-C charger. And while most of the industry, most of the users are welcoming it, but Apple is openly come out and they are very furious about this decision. So we will discuss about why EU has taken such a decision. First of all, when you look at the devices, especially the Apple devices, the USB charger is so expensive. You know, the original charger of Apple device is so expensive, and many times it does not come along with the box when you unbox your device. Uh, when it comes to having a specific type of charger only meant for Apple devices, and on the other hand, it is quite expensive. Apple devices themselves are very expensive. So I think, and when in today's environment, people are carrying so many different devices at the same time, you actually end up taking multiple types of cables and multiple type of chargers with you, because you have a need to charge all your devices. And especially when it comes to Apple product are very good but they are quite expensive. Even the cable is so expensive. And if your cable which you get along with with your new box, if you want to buy another one, or you want to keep it in your travel kit, etc., it will cost a bomb. So I think the whole point of EU deciding that uh, all mobile devices must have USB-C type charger. So it basically, standardize the charging points. You don't have to carry, you can just manage with one cable. So it's going to basically create a lot of ease of use for people. They don't have to spend a lot of money in replacing these charging cables and chargers. So it's more of reducing the e-waste. And as you know that e-waste is also becoming a big problem, and every 6 to 7 months, new devices are coming. And at the same time, if these manufacturers says that these devices will require new chargers and new cable, it will create an exponential problem. It will also create an environment problem. And many times, many countries actually, especially large countries like India, China, uh, Nigeria, and there are a few others who, where these e-waste is dumped for processing. So, and these countries, especially India and China, are generating the e-waste of their own, because half the population resides in these two countries. So not standardizing on a charging point or a charger is basically not a good strategy. So I think I fully welcome the EU stand on this particular issue, where people had to carry different types of charger whenever they have to spend their own money in accumulating different types of charger for different devices. Now, if you look at the Apple is the only company which has not welcome this move, simply because they must be thinking about making some revenue in terms of selling their chargers as well, along with their expensive devices, and their chargers are also very expensive, whereas all other manufacturers have more or less standardized on USB charge points. So suppose you have Apple device, then you need to carry a lightning connector or something like that. Or if you don't have that, then you can pretty much be very comfortable with just one type of USB device and so on. But I think it's a welcome move by EU, and rest of the world will follow. It will help reduce the clutter on your desk. It will help reduce your expenses on different types of devices. It will also help reducing the e-waste, which we are generating almost like 25% of electronics every year become part of the e-waste. So we can save all of that. It will also help the environment because a lot of this e-waste get into countries, and some of the material during processing can be hazardous to life of humans as well as for animals. So I think overall this is a good move, and I fully welcome EU about move on this. And I like to say goodbye for today, only to catch you with more analysis on the trending subject tomorrow. Good morning, friends. My name is Chandrakant, and welcome to Akulmach Live. China recently announced that there is a shortage of workforce, and to the extent of 40%. The United States has said that there is a huge shortage in workforce availability. People are not finding new jobs. And also in a large democracy like India, there are corporates who are suffering because the workforce, even though the workforce is available, but they are not joining the jobs. So today's discussion is about the age of resignation, and we will analyze this with facts and figures. So friends, I think the reason could be that people have already predicted that most of the workforce in this decade, which is 2020 and up to 2030, will be of freelancers. There is a lot of freelancers available, up to the extent of 60% works which will be applicable in the industry today across the board, agnostically, will be freelancers, starting from very senior jobs to even smaller jobs. So I think there is a age of freelancers triggered by the pandemic, where people were forced to stay at home and work from home. So, I think the pandemic has changed um, the work environment in more ways than we can even think of. And one of this thing is the virtual office environment, where people are working from home, and then they are actually so it started off by creating another uh, scenario where we have to deal with the personal life of the employees. So this is another reality where the work from home started creating that, either using a digital scenario, and even if they are working, they are waiting for their calls, and so the work from home became a reality for almost a lot of people. And while these people are working from home, even call centers were working from home, the industries which were thriving earlier, booming industries like leisure, hospitality, suffered big time. There were people who were actually going out. There are people, the blue colored workers and white collar workers, who used to necessarily get out of their homes on weekend, Saturdays and Sundays, and have a good time. They go to resorts, they have meetings with friends, enjoy with their families, etc. So there was a whole industry to support it, either in terms of hotels or restaurants, where you can go out, and tourism. So all these industries actually suffered big time because people are not now getting out, and it started off as a initially as a lockdown, and then people got into the groove of working from home virtually, and there was no need for them to get out of their home. The other industry which suffered drastically and is the travel industry, which is like airlines, uh, tourist buses, etc., transportation, because people are not moving out, so this industry also suffered. So while these industries suffered, there are a lot of iteration in these industries. The other industry which suffered was the automobile manufacturing industry, because when people are staying at home, there was no new need to buy a new car or a new vehicle. And in fact, this industry is also sitting on a crossroad where the type of vehicles now required are not really SUVs and all that, but short-term point-to-point kind of a vehicle which are required, probably electric vehicle. I think when we're talking about automobile industry, we should also talk about petroleum. The prices of petroleum per barrel now running into minus $38. It's basically they will pay you, and the oil producing countries will pay you petroleum, and they will also pay you $38 for buying it. So this is the extent of transformation which has been brought up by the pandemic, and these are permanent situations. And because of that, this industry is also suffering. There are a few more also which are suffering. While these industries are suffering and there are a lot of iteration, the other industries like e-commerce is booming, because people are at home, they are ordering through e-commerce. Healthcare is booming. And there are other industries like stock market. Stock market is also booming because the stock trading has gone up by almost 150% in 2020 to 2021, because people are at home and they are seeing what they can do to utilize their free time, and as a result they are actually participating in more of the trading. So trading industry is also booming, and in fact you can see around you all the stock markets are booming. I mean, isn't it surprising that when people are not getting jobs, people are not having to go anywhere, no production happening, yet the stock markets are booming? So I think these are the signs of things which are changing and have changed permanently. The pandemic has changed our work environment in a much more profound way than we can think of. I think one of the reason is all these whiles when we were working in the corporate job or any kind of job, we were not uh, choosers, and we were just engaged in a job because we had a job, and we were working. We used to get into our cars, go to office, get into trains, reach office, finish our work, come back home, had dinner, sleep. And that is why it was sort of a rat race where people are trying to be busy. But I think the pandemic has taught everyone a lesson where they spend a lot of time with their families, and they realize that the life is so valuable. They get only one life. And while there are iteration, so out of 60% jobs which were lost in past 18 months, nearly 40% of these jobs were the willing resignations. And it is a data which is there. In fact, people are not turning up, they are actually willingly resigning even though they don't have a job. So what is happening here is that if people want to sit at home and maybe rethink, they don't want to be in a rat race. They don't want to get into a job which is not as per their interest level. They don't just want to work. So some people are thinking, hey, why should I go to my office, which the job that I don't like? I like to be a painter. I want to convert my hobby into my job. I can work only half a time, and half the time I can actually practice my hobby. So half the time I can be a freelancer, and half week I can be practicing my hobby. So these are the thought process which are coming, and in all of this, they have also understood the value of life, because the people who survived in last 18 months, they value their life much more now, and they want to be with their family, they want to be in safe environment of home, they want to spend more time and also practice what they always dream of. This is the time when they want to dream, make reality out of their dreams. So this is why a lot of resignations are willingly happening without any job. So the employees are sitting again on a crossroads. Like for example, some of the industries are sitting on the crossroads. Even the workforce is also sitting on the crossroads, not able to decide which way they have to go. But I think some people have got clarity. They have taken a sabbatical. They have resigned from the job and now are thinking about the next chapter in their life. And that is why there is a lack of workforce globally, especially in the corporate. And when the workforce is not available, the corporates are not able to sustain, because I think there is a workforce shortage everywhere. All the major countries are having workforce shortage because people are not turning up. Um, and that is why the corporates will have to relook the way they function. Because if you look at the corporate, their only attraction is they offer the best working environment, they offer good salary, they offer growth. None of these things are giving any kick to the workforce right now. It's not the money. I think we have done enough research that people don't work for money. Obviously, some people work for money, but majority of them, it is not something which is a very good, compelling value proposition. At the same time, working environment, when people are not working at office, they are working from home, it does not cut any ice. So by offering a good working environment, offering good money, they will not be able to attract people to join them. So even the corporates are sitting on a crossroads, because they have to redesign their whole architecture, what they should be doing, how they should be working. Do they need to buy new software to manage freelancers? Do they need freelancers? How they should come create a production environment? What are the industries which will pick up in future? These are the questions which every corporate is asking today. And every employee, probable employee, is also asking these questions: what I need to do in my life? And because of that, there is a shortage of workforce in our world today. And I thought I will just touch upon these relevant points. Friends, do you have any suggestion, any comments? Do write in, and I will reply to each one of you to best of my capabilities. So, friends, I will catch you in the next one tomorrow. Until then, bye. Hello friends, this is Chandra from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass Skills Gap Discussion Forum. In this forum, we will be discussing the skills gap that we have today in India, and that may becoming a stumbling block to reaching the 5 trillion economy mark. And in this program, we call various leaders to discuss the prevailing issues. And today, I am honored to present to you Mr. Raj Neravati, who is the founder and CEO of a new age company called Hug Innovation. Raj and Hug Innovation are well known in the market among the people and also among the various business fraternity. So without further ado, let me present to you Mr. Raj Neravati.
Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?
Good morning. This is Chandra from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass. Today we have a very eminent personality with us, Mr. Ravi Shankar Balasubramanian. Ravi joins us from Bangalore. He is the CEO of BLR Labs, and BLR Labs has offices in India and in US. Welcome to the show, Ravi.
Thank you, CK. Good morning and namaste. Pleasure talking to you and glad to be connected with Akulmach and Top Brass. Pleasure talking to you.
Right, Ravi. So, as you know that we are under lockdown, and today is day 5. You are joining us from Bangalore. How Bangalore treating the people during this lockdown? I'm sure it's a tech city. So, are there any deployment of any new tech services in Bangalore? How it is treating? So, we just want to know from you from the experiences.
Yeah, no doubt there are challenges. These are tough times, but when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And looking at the environment, I think this is more important and pertinent given the circumstances here that we take care more about the unorganized sector and those sort of junction. I think that should be the focus of the government. While the challenges are immense, I think the opportunity is also immense for technology companies like BLR Labs, and I think this is where we need to innovate. And as you know, right, necessary is the mother of all inventions. So I think this pushes us to get to the edge and create those solutions because. So that we are prepared such that next time such a situation arises, I think it should be like smooth flowing. We need to so this actually throws up and opens up a lot of infrastructural requirements, and I think BLR Labs, we look forward to BLR Labs to be sharing that platform and enabling to overcome such challenges in the future. But as of Bangalore, they have been kind. I think if we look at it, even though I'm still in the office at this point in time, so they have allowed me to come and attend this sort of requirement, even though we have actually officially requested all our employees to work from home. But if you see, right, especially a lot of BPOs, various other forums, which were never open to work from home. You had to work 24/7. You had the cab services. You had to be in the office. They were never opening up their infrastructure for people to explore work from home opportunities for women folk, even the night travel. Now that it has forced all those technology companies, okay, to enable the employees to work from home, I think it's a game changing situation because what will happen is it is going to open up the security concerns which were actually conservative earlier. Now they would realize that we are more we can actually overcome those situations, and things will start opening up. So I think while the challenges are there, it also actually, from a business community point of view, if we keep our eyes open, I think there's a lot of opening which it actually creates, and to benefit the mankind, going forward, especially from a technology breakthrough perspective and technology interface point of view. So I see it's an eye opener, okay, and I see that only those a lot of companies are going to find it challenging, okay, to run their business. We will see definitely see some of these startups actually winding up. We would like to see a lot of government initiatives to actually help these companies in terms of moratorium to um, to all the EMIs, loans, and so on and so forth. Because unless the business community gears up and wins, there's no way. We are looking for a long haul. It is not like 15-day, 20-day. I think this is a war-like situation. I think companies such as us should lead from the front and help the governments in all the countries, to enable them fight back and rebound back very fast and very successfully. I think the onus is on us. So that is where I'm working round the clock. To be quite honest, CK, it's been very time-consuming working, almost 12 hours a day, because this is where I see the opportunity, and that is why, even in these times, we are having this conversation, which tells you the importance and the opportunity that exists, because it is for us to actually make or break the situation.
Yes, Ravi. In fact, as you rightly pointed out, that the need is the mother of invention, or in this case, it's a lockdown which is creating a new behavioral changes in all of us. So,
Yeah.
just to share, one point is in the society where I live in, we have come out with a token system so that we don't overspend and we don't queue up. And this is all online. And this app got developed within 2 days,
Yeah.
and it is rolled out. And the future roadmap for this app is also defined, because once this lockdown is over, the same app can be utilized for club activities, slot booking, etc., for various activities. So so much changes, and I'm sure there are requirements for schools, for business, for offices to go online, because I
Absolutely.
personally believe that uh, this issue with the pandemic is not going to go away after 16 days from now. It will continue for some more time. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, let's hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. So, as I already see a lot of colleges and institutes, now that the integration and the infrastructure in terms of actually the internet speeds in India has actually significantly grown. So, a lot of colleges have begun to actually take classes. In fact, one of my friends was actually taking lectures yesterday to the students over the internet. So you see, with lot of significant changes that is going to come, I think this is something that we cannot wish away. This is definitely going to open up a lot of eyebrows, and the way we interact. I think it's going to change forever. Okay, I think so. That's the point where we need to be opening up. The one of the key things is, while a lot of lot of rich and the reasonably middle class people can afford it, we have to also ensure that the people behind the poverty line and who are challenged for their daily wages are not left behind. Okay, their kids are very, very important for this ecosystem to develop. I think that we need to create those sort of platforms for them to not lose out on this education system, because I think if you see that these lectures can go not just to 50 people class, they can actually open up to a zillions of people who are online. So that way we can create a lot of cost effective solution, and I'm sure India is going to lead from that front, because as a country we are very, very cost sensitive. I think we have been sort of cautious or conservative in terms of adapting technology, but this post lockdown will leave no stone unturned to create that turnaround. I think this pushes us to the edge, and in a sense that it is good for the country and future growth in economy. No doubt, the growth is going to be negative in the coming quarter, but I think if we play the game right and look forward to overcome these challenges, I think developing countries like us are going to be the countries who are going to actually lead those technology and opportunities from. So as I said earlier, it is for us to actually lose. It is for us to actually take this opportunity. As such, India has done pretty well with this lockdown. As against all the developed countries, you can already see that. So it was a post lockdown, but it has created a lot of hassles. Okay. However, this also is time for companies such as us to think through innovatively and create those solutions, so that we are geared up for all such future challenges that may come in. And I'm looking forward to it.
Right, Ravi, and it was pleasure talking to you. Today is day 16. I mean, day 5, 16 more to go. So I will check up with you after a few more days how Bangalore is treating you still, because it's a long lockdown. Until that,
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you. And please take care, stay safe, uh, keep the social distancing. That is very, very paramount. As such, we are seeing a lot of ventilators getting developed. So India is gearing up in terms of infrastructure, but this is the time to actually hold back and utilize that time to think innovatively, spend that time and come back stronger. Thank you, CK. All the very best. Looking forward to talking to you in the future. And I wish the world to overcome this catastrophe very soon and very fast. Wishing all the people speedy recovery and getting back to growth. Looking forward to it. Okay. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.
yes, Ravi. So pleasure. Namaste. Hello, friends. This is Akulmach Live, and I'm your host, Chandrakant. Today, we are discussing about the climate change, and it's a big subject. It's on everybody's mind, and we are actually trying to see how we can improve the climate and make sure that the humankind, takes all the right step. And because of that, there are some protests also brewing in different parts of the countries, and we have seen the effects of the climate change recently. To discuss this matter, I will be joined by a very senior person from UK. Friends, don't go anywhere. I will just take a very short break and join back along with my friend. Welcome back, friends, and I'm very honored and pleased to have Mr. Mike Bradley on the show. Mike is joining us from UK, and we will have a very good discussion about the climate change. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Good afternoon to you, Chandra. Trust you're well. Enjoying the weather. Improving a bit.
Good afternoon, Mike. I think it's a great monsoon season going on here in our country. And talking about monsoon, I think the rains actually created such a big havoc across the world. I mean, it used to happen in India always. It's like a common news, and every season there'll be a lot of catastrophes and landslides and sinkholes. It's like way of life here. But why this has become such a big news now, since it happened in Europe, it happened everywhere else, and then there are a lot of wildfires across North America. So certainly climate is changing, and even before we start the discussion, there is a comment from Mr. Syed Hussain, who is very happy that we are talking about climate. So Syed, thank you so much for your comment, and if you have any specific question, do shoot on and we will respond to you. So moving on, Mike, what is your opinion on this climate change?
Well, of course, we all have to take notice. Now is a time for us all to act, that's for sure. I think, it's abundantly obvious that things are happening on a global scale. We cannot keep going the way we were pre-pandemic. Over the pandemic, a lot of us realized that maybe commuting wasn't something we all have to do. We can actually work from home, and that's better for the environment. And I remember pictures of Mumbai with no traffic on the roads. I never thought I'd see that in my lifetime. So what we have seen over the pandemic is that things can be done differently. And what is for sure is, if we're going to arrest the chaos that we're seeing around the world, we have to do something different. So we cannot keep going the way we are. However, in the UK for the next 2 weeks, we have a group called Extinction Rebellion. If you do a hashtag on Twitter, you'll see that's already a trending subject in the UK for sure. I don't know if globally, but Extinction Rebellion's campaign is based on civil disobedience and business disruption, according to their own mantra. They want to challenge the status quo on climate and the ecological crisis. I think that's absolutely right. I don't, however, think it's right that there should be civil disobedience and business disruption. I don't actually think that that actually is the way to move forwards in a positive way. I don't think any of our global economies can cope with that. I think it's an ideological dream or nightmare, I should say, and therefore we need to take a different approach. We need to take a more responsible approach to solving the climate environmental crisis.
I think you are making a lot of sense. I think that is the way to go. Coming back to climate changes, I think it has not happened yesterday. It is thousands of years of doing, and it seems to be a normal occurrence. The climate, especially the atmosphere, keeps to increase the carbon dioxide, etc. But this time it is because of the human activity. But surprisingly, because during the COVID period, the climate actually recovered quite a bit, the wildlife and the climate, etc., because people were not interfering in that. So at this point in time, doing a rebellion is counterproductive, because the way of life has changed already and is also changing. Maybe it will have a permanent way of life going forward in this decade. So the agitation for climate the form of agitation must also change, because people are now working from home, they are not driving around, there is electric revolution, unconventional power generations are being promoted rather than the thermal power or nuclear power. So I think the environment is changing very, very rapidly, and therefore the rebellion, or as you said, rebellion is one of the trending hashtag today. It has to find its new method of driving their point. Don't you think so, Mike?
Yeah. I agree. I think there's in all things there's a balance to be struck, and one of the demands, shall we say, of this Extinction Rebellion is to stop investment in fossil fuels. I don't actually think that is the way to totally solve the problem, because it's not just fossil fuels that are causing the problem. I believe that it's the way that we are on 4 levels, the way we are interacting with the environment. So there's an individual level. Do we still walk around houses and leave lights on? That's not good for the environment. That's not good for the resources of the planet. We all need to be prudent of that. There's the corporate business side of being responsible for the planet. Are we corporately making the right decisions, taking account of the ecological impact of what we're doing? There's the public and country level, where this, I think, also includes the political power plays. A swing back to traditional pre-pandemic commuting is not something to be encouraged. We, as you rightly say, in the pandemic, we saw how the environment improved when we stopped commuting. So let's ensure that countries are working towards an efficient way of allowing people to work, which doesn't go back to the old pre-pandemic, let's pollute the planet and burn it up, because that isn't going to continually work. And then I think there's a collective responsibility, and by that I mean there's a multinational, multilateral approach. It is no good 1/3 of the world deciding to do something and 2/3 of the world deciding they're not going to do something. We've all got to take responsibility, and I think all four of those levels, it's very much around being prudent, being aware, being conscious, being good stewards of the environment. And in some way, those at those four different levels, there's a personal element and there's an external, well, if you're not going to do it for yourself, we're going to find a way to make you actually be more environmentally conscious. Now, what I do think is also important, a lot of talk around electric vehicles. I don't necessarily think electric vehicles are the solution for everything. For a start, a lot of countries are already struggling with lack of electricity. So putting everybody into electric vehicles isn't necessarily going to solve the problem. Cutting out transportation, cutting out the reason to travel, reducing the amount of time that we each individually sit in a vehicle, that is actually going to have a bigger impact than, in my view, electric vehicles in the short term. The way that we produce the electric vehicle batteries, I believe, is also inefficient. So electric vehicles aren't necessarily the way to go. I do, however, think alternative natural sources of energy, they are to be encouraged. So whether it be solar, whether it be wind, whether it be hydro, we have to utilize natural resources much more efficiently. You could say that fossil fuels are a natural resource, of course, but actually what we need to do is be more prudent about what we're doing. And for me, this comes down to what I call the big three green goals. So in each one of those four categories, individual, corporate, public, country level, collectively, we have to be conscious of focusing on the big three things that we as an entity impact the climate negatively on. And if we work on those big three things, then the chances are we'll make a bigger impact faster. We do have to make a big impact. On that, I agree with Extinction Rebellion. What I don't agree with is civil disobedience and business disruption as a way to do it, particularly when every economy is on its knees already because of COVID. So what we have to do is find a sensible way to do it. So if each one of those four categories could look at their own consumption pattern and say, well, actually, the bulk of our pollution or climate impact is, let's say, commuting. Well, then let's find a way to revolutionize commuting. If it's the way we process chemicals in our factories, then let's look at a way that we can do that better. If it's the way we manufacture goods, let's look at ways we can do that better using alternative sources of power. If it's wastage, let's find ways to reduce the amount of waste. But I think every one of those four categories can look at the big three. Don't worry about the other minutiae because they're not going to make fast enough impact. Look at the big three climate impacting areas in your entity, whether it be a country, whether it be a public organization, whether it be a corporate, whether it be individual, and whether it be multinational globally, the G7, etc. Because those are the things that are going to have the biggest impact.
Very rightly pointed out, Mike. And in fact, viewers, this program is going live across the world. And whichever corner of the world you are, you can communicate with us, post your questions on any comments using the chat function in your social media. So any social media, we are going live on all of them. So, since we are global, Mike, I think the question that I need to ask is the almost like 40% to 45% population resides in India and China. These two countries may be doing something, but I think, why don't you tell us what the people think about greenhouse gas emission back there in your own country, which is UK? How people want to lead life going forward in order to reduce their the carbon footprint and become green. Is there a thinking way ahead among people?
I think it varies. I think it varies by generation, Chandra. I mean, I think younger people, Gen Zs and people like that, they will grow up thinking environmental consciousness. They have a future for the next, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, and they are going to be negatively impacted. So, the Greta Thunbergs of this world, they have a vested interest in ensuring things are sorted. Unfortunately, I think some of the people at the apex of organizations and countries are tinkering around the edges. Some are doing it for political gain. I saw a local councillor on the television the other night boasting about the fact that they put a cycling lane in, which has slowed down all the traffic because cycling is deemed to be better for the environment. It was a very arrogant stance. It was a very stupid stance, because what's happened is the 92% of motoring traffic has now been slowed down, meaning their journeys are longer. The cycling lanes remain empty 21 hours a day. So how does, reducing the amount of potential for motoring traffic to go faster, how does that positively impact the traffic? So that's a politician who's actually taking on board a trendy term, let's all go cycling. But if you've got to cycle 50 miles to do a job, that isn't very practical. So, there's got to be a reality check. And so all this, propaganda and jumping on the trends isn't the way to go. I do believe the way to go, like I said, is for each one of those four, individuals, corporates, public, country level, and collectively as a globe, we have to take it seriously, and we have to ensure that we look at the big three that are massively impacting our own individual footprints, our own entity footprint. That is the only way to actually do this. I think there is a general move now. There is a general acceptance that the climate has changed or is changing. Some people would say, well, that's natural, it's changing anyway. Some people would blame climate change on environmental abuse. But what we have to ensure is that these extremes do not take the collective eye off the ball. What we have to do is all take it seriously and all work towards minimizing our environmental impact. Things are changing. I feel that one of the most worrying parts is that the ice caps are melting. Once they go, there is probably little chance in us being able to counteract that. The impact is going to be ginormous. So we do have to act. Like I say, I do agree with Extinction Rebellion. We've got to do something. What I do think we need to do is do it in a responsible and collective manner, rather than seeking to, cause businesses further disruption and chaos when they're already struggling to repay their COVID loans and et cetera, et cetera. That isn't going to help anybody. It's certainly not going to help the Gen Zs coming through and the millennials who are actually going to need these businesses to provide them with jobs and income and ways to live.
Well, Mike, we have a question from a viewer, and she has actually joined in from Facebook. Her name is Kanchan Verma, and she says, time has come to switch to electric vehicle, and in England as well, and England should be working towards environment conservation when it comes to transport management. I think that's really her question is, is England working towards adapting the electric vehicle transport system for better environment conservation? Your answer, Mike.
Well, I think, as I mentioned earlier, I don't think electric vehicles are necessarily the solution to the problem. I think the biggest solution is to actually get traffic off of the roads, ensure that only essential traffic is using the roads. That means we need to be conscious of traffic flows because there is still going to be a power requirement for electric vehicles. And electric vehicles, if you are like me, based on the south coast with that nice, beautiful beach nearby, trying to get up to somewhere in the north of England, whether it be for personal or for business reasons, you cannot do it in an electric vehicle. So electric vehicles aren't yet, in my opinion, able to handle every situation. So expecting everybody to go electric is not going to work. And England is a relatively small country. So it may be possible to go from Cardiff to Birmingham, or Birmingham to Norwich, or Birmingham to York, or Birmingham to take Birmingham because it's in the middle. It's obvious that it's going to be easier to reach with an electric vehicle if you're going from Birmingham. But if you're living at the extremes of the country, electric vehicles are not going to work. Expecting everybody to go electric, not practical. The logistics industry, potentially, as new technologies emerge, more natural-based technologies, solar energy, wind energy, some ways to harness that effectively. I don't think electric is necessarily the way to go. But I also do agree that we need to reevaluate and continually review our transport policy, and we need to ensure that we're concentrating on traffic flow, not blockage, because that's not going to help the environment. And we need to focus on getting traffic off of the roads wherever possible. And there should be fiscal policies that encourage that. I don't know if that's answered that lady's question. No doubt, there's going to be not necessarily agreement there. I wouldn't expect there to be. I think these things are up for debate. I think we've got to be practical and not ideological, because ideological will not get us where we need to be.
Well, Kanchan, hopefully your question was answered. If not, you are most welcome to post your additional question. No problem with that. So Mike, let me share my personal experience. I started riding bicycle about 7-8 years back, and initially it was quite tough. Even 1 or 2 kilometers used to be very tough, but then gradually I picked up this stamina, and I was riding almost like 50 kilometers a day, going to office, coming back, going to office, coming back. And then there were other people in my group. There were guys who were riding 50 kilometers one way, so about 80 to 90 kilometers in a day. And there were other nerds, and these nerds are not necessarily junior guys. These are the CEOs and really creme de la creme, who were riding almost like 150 kilometers for a cup of tea. They used to plan it, hey, let's go there and let's have a cup of tea in that particular joint. And they ride 150 kilometers. So what I'm trying to say is that, even though England or UK is a smaller country, not as big as India, what I know about UK is that if you, drive 80 kilometers in either direction, you will hit the ocean. So, which is so small compared to what figures I'm trying to share with you.
Yeah.
So if you practice, and if you put a small electric motor, then you can actually reduce your exertion and still go green. And
I think exertion isn't the problem. I think exertion isn't the problem, Chandra. I think the problem is practicality. If you're going along a street, and let's say, we need to look at the whole picture. The whole picture means that if you're needing to go 50 kilometers to the office, do you need to go 50 kilometers to the office every day? Or could you go work? Well, could you work from home? Could you work locally in a local work hub where you collect together with other people in your area, and only occasionally maybe you do your 50 kilometer cycle? However, I every time I see cycles on UK streets, well, we haven't got the width. That one of the problems of having a small country is we haven't actually got the road width available to put cycles there and motor vehicles on the same side of the road. So what I see time and time again, so you see maybe 3 to 4 cyclists, and they will be riding at the edge of the road, meaning no vehicles can overtake them. So whilst it's great because those 4 cyclists are actually not burning any fuel for the environment, maybe a bit of methane if they've had to have steak for breakfast, but then the rest of the travelling public is held up behind them and their journey is longer. So as I said before, cycling in and of itself is not the solution. Getting traffic off the roads that doesn't need to be there, that's a solution. Allowing people to work locally or work from home or work remotely 80% of their time, that's part of the solution. Having traffic flowing properly is part of the solution. That might mean contraflows, which means in the morning going into town, there are 2 lanes and 1 lane going out, and the other way around in the evenings. So that I saw that in Rio on the Copacabana road, where in the mornings, 2 traffic lanes went towards town and 1 came out, and they reversed that in the evening. That was sensible management of traffic. I think traffic flow is key to reducing consumption. I think reducing the amount of unnecessary commuting is key to it. I'm not saying cycling may not be part of the solution. If you're working in a place that you can get to by cycle, good on you. If you can walk it, good on you. If you can't, you shouldn't be condemned. But also the organisations, be they corporate or public, need to also be conscious that maybe part of their big 3 green goals is to reduce the amount of time people have to commute into their office unnecessarily.
Yes, I think it's a very large subject, Mike. We can circle back on this subject in future and discuss specifically how you can adapt the electric revolution. But for today, I think let's get back to our discussion about the rebellion. So what is your opinion? What's going on in terms of the environmental rebellion which is brewing up? And I think it's mostly happening in the UK. What really is happening over there?
Well, they just cause chaos, basically. Their objective is to raise the profile of their issue. And at the moment, their big issue is stop investment in fossil fuels. I don't necessarily, like I said earlier, don't think that's necessarily the solution. Not everybody can go electric. So more efficient use of fossil fuels, there should be investment in. Maybe instead of using, 3 gallons, 20 litres, they should be working on trying to use 1 gallon and 10 litres. That would be an investment in fossil fuels, but it would be an investment which says let's see how we can do this more efficiently. So I don't think stopping investment is the way to go. I do think, however, investing in more efficient use of fossil fuels is possibly a better agenda. I never see the point in civil disobedience. I think we're all fully aware that something needs to be done. I don't think causing chaos in cities is the way to help anybody, least of all the public who are trying to sort of get back on their feet after COVID. And I do, however, hope that, and there's already the big summit coming up, which Akulmach Sharma is organising, I think in Glasgow at the end of the year. So there is focus within Westminster to try and improve things. Extinction Rebellion doesn't need to raise that. What we do collectively need to do is accelerate our approach and our prudent approach to solving the climate crisis. And like I say, for me, that's the big 3 green goals. Each one of those 4 categories needs to examine that, come up with it, and if they won't do it, then maybe that's where the governments need to step in and say, look, if you can't self-regulate, we're going to make you look at the top 3 things in your organisation that could have a positive impact on the climate.
Well, I think the world has really changed. Especially if I have to talk about India, the noise pollution has come down because people are not riding their vehicles on the street. The water pollution has come down because we are not creating so much dump into the rivers and oceans as we were earlier. The air pollution has come down because we are not using driving around unnecessary for small things, which was the norm. You want to have a cup of tea somewhere, you just drive around. Instead, now just ask your friend to come online on some sort of digital conference and have you bring your coffee and you have your coffee together. So I think the lifestyle is changing, and because of that, the reason for rebellion must also change. I think our appeal to the people who are fighting for a good cause must look at this as well and make sure that the civil disobedience is also changed along with the time. So with this, we can end our discussion, Mike. Unless you have any last words, I will just ask you if you want to add something in the end.
No, I think we've got to all work collectively and positively together to create change. We've got to do it in a way that's prudent, and we've got to do it in a way that enables us to continue doing what we have to do to put food on the table and roofs over our heads. And therefore, we need to do it in a way that is embracing the democratic process, not trying to usurp it.
Thank you so much, Mike, for finding time and discussing about this very important subject. We'll catch up with you next week once again on something more interesting. Bye-bye for today.
Look forward to it. Take care. Thank you, Chandra. Bye.
Hey guys, what's up? I am Chandrakant and this is Akulmach Live, and today we will discuss about the unconscious bias and how does it affect our decisions in our business. And to discuss this, I will be joined by my friend, a very distinguished personality from UK, Mr. Naval Gun. So I'll just take a short break and join back along with the guest. Don't go anywhere. Good morning, Neville. Welcome to the show, and we are looking forward to this great discussion today about unconscious bias. How are you doing today?
Good morning, CK. Good morning, everybody. Unconscious bias. 2 words, my goodness, for a Friday. Bit complicated, you might think, but it's things that we do automatically without even thinking. And we do them automatically because we've experienced them time and time and time again, and that's what we do. What things do you do automatically, CK, without even thinking about it?
Well, I think there are many things, and within my mind, I'm pretty sure that whatever I'm doing is right, no matter what. Even if my father tells me to do it, I know for sure that this is right and this is wrong. And sometimes if I think now loud with you, that it can be sort of not very flexible nature, because based on my experience, I have sort of hardened on those decisions. So this is what I feel, Naval. I take decisions all the time.
I mean, it's good you take decisions, but as you say, it's those decisions have been hardened over time because you do them frequently, you know. And the thing about that is, if you do something often enough, you forget what you're doing, like brushing your teeth, like making a cup of tea, like getting out of the same side of the bed every morning. We do this automatically. Let me ask you a simple question, CK. Here you go. Here's one for you. Which sock do you put on first?
Well, that's a good question. Now, if you, well, I have to think about it, Neville, because suddenly I'm blank. You know, nothing is coming to my mind. But I think one thing I'll tell you is that certain situations are sort of hard coded in my brain. Things like sometimes are related to people, sometimes it is related to countries, sometimes it is related to religion, but those things are sort of hard coded within me, and I think some of the decisions are driven from there, and I have no I'm not shying away by admitting that there are some decisions that I take are driven from these biases that I have.
You're absolutely right, CK. And sorry for putting you on the spot again. But when you wake up tomorrow morning, consciously think about which sock you're going to put on first, and then you'll find out. But is that important? No, it's not really. It's irrelevant. You're just putting one sock on after the other. Does it make any difference whether you're putting the left on first or the right on first? Probably not. Frankly, it's just a futile exercise, but it explains exactly what we're talking about here. And you've hit the nail on the head. Biases. Even having a positive bias could be just as negative as having a negative bias if we're not careful. And let's just focus on networking, because this is a huge subject. But let's imagine now we're walking into a networking arena, and there's lots of people in there, and there's someone you've never met before. But you look at them and you think, I don't like that person. You've never met them, but your unconscious bias has taken over. And you will go and avoid talking with that person. And it's as simple as that. Have you ever experienced that in your... I've experienced that in my life, frankly, until I realised what was happening. Have you ever experienced that, or you seen it happen, CK?
Absolutely, Neville. It happens all the time, especially when you're traveling and then you are very cautious. You know, when you're out of your comfort zone, out of your home, and you're traveling somewhere, you're obviously very conscious because, you know, you're not aware of the surroundings and you're not very free and you're observing everything. And in that scenario, you will see some people whom you don't like just because you don't like them. So I think there is a bias right away because you just don't like them. That's it. So it happens all the time, Neville.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Just because you don't like them, you've programmed yourself not to like that type of person. And let's look at the consequences of veering away from that type of person. You could miss a really good conversation with someone who's got a huge amount of experience in a place where you want to go as an organization. They may just be that person that is going to make a difference in your world. But you don't know that because your unconscious bias has kicked in and you say, talk to the hand, don't go anywhere near this person. You know, if they come towards you, turn away and go and talk to somebody else. And these are things we do automatically. And just imagine that happens. And this person that could make a fundamental change in your business, you've now just ignored because you don't like them. Now, that's the worst form of unconscious bias. That's really going to limit your capability because, in essence, it's a limiting belief, and you need to push that limiting belief to one side. This has happened to me in the past, I can't remember. I'd have to go back some time to remember the last time it happened, but it definitely happened to me. Now let's look at a different consequence. I'm going to look at the antithesis of it. Okay. So in the first example, we were talking about somebody you look at that you really don't like. There's something just not right about that person, and they fit into this part of, I don't want to talk to them. I don't like them. They're not very nice. Now let's flip the coin. What about the other bias? About a characteristic you see in somebody. So for instance, exactly the same room, and you look across the room, there's someone new there, and they smile at you. And you think, oh, they're smiling at me. That seems like a nice person. Have you ever been there, CK?
Well, Naval, let me share something which is happening very frequently for past 1 year, because a lot of people are now digitally connected. I have a bias. First of all, let me admit that before I start sharing my experience. There is a bias in me. Now, if somebody, some guy, some man appreciates my photograph and makes a heart around it, I automatically generates a bias. You know what I'm talking about. So I think to answer your question, I'm giving a real-time scenario which is happening so frequently past 1 year, where people are sending you heart and the other person is supposed to be a man, and there is a bias in me. I immediately shut off on that conversation.
Yeah, it's common. I mean, the thing is, it's you. I'm not going to be able to change you. But like anything else, we have all these Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, any of these platforms now, where you can change the heart emoji to just like, thumbs up, or a gift, or a thank you, or something else. So the platforms have listened to you, CK. But the interesting thing is, not a lot of people know that if they hover over these things, that they can change the emoji. So there's a little bit of an insight. But the thing is, just like the unconscious bias, which is very negative, you've created another unconscious bias, which is incredibly negative, just as negative, by someone smiling at you. Smiling is a universal language, and we all adapt positively to a smile. I mean, that's psychologically proven. When someone smiles at you, you smile back. You're a very rough individual if you don't smile back. You've trained yourself not to smile, which you're a sad person as far as I'm concerned, because we should all smile and laugh. It takes fewer muscles to smile on your face than it does to frown, by the way. There's another throwaway. But we're talking about business now, and you've seen a characteristic in somebody that you like, and you flock to them. And the problem with that is it takes away all of the other characteristics that you're looking for. So just because this person has smiled at you, or they've written an article and you see this person, you think, oh, they wrote a fantastic article. It may not have been them that wrote it. Someone else may have written it for them and they just put their name to it. But the point is, there's something that kicks inside that says, that's a smart person, I want to talk to them. And it could be a complete and utter waste of time. And that's why the unconscious bias in that arena, seeing something really positive out there that you relate to in your past, because that's what bias is. You're relating to something that you've seen before, and the more you see it, the more you relate to it, unless you fight it. And today's program, I suppose, in some respects, is having the mechanisms to fight your unconscious bias, because you could be missing out on opportunities. As we said in the preview to the program, it could be your biggest ally or your biggest enemy. So, biggest ally or biggest enemy, CK? Which one do you think it is with you?
Well, I think it's my biggest enemy, and let me narrate another incident which happens very often. And that is, if you're sitting in a meeting room and you come across a presenter who is starting to give presentation. It's a very normal occurrence. It happens with everybody. It happens with me. And now, since I'm talking to you, I'm opening myself and telling you what I've experienced. So now he'll start from acknowledgement, blah, blah, blah. This is what I am. This is about my company. The A, B, C, D. It goes like a very, very, methodical flow. And for me, it's very boring. My mind is already telling me, hey, I've seen these presentations 1,000 times, maybe million times. Come to the point straight away. So that straight away is a bias. When I think of it, it's a bias. I don't want to listen to his background and his company profile. I'm too eager to jump to what is the context. And that could be a bias within me.
You're absolutely right, CK. And the interesting thing is, as your mind is thinking, get to the point, I've heard this before, you're shutting down. You're not listening to what that person's saying because you're in your brain, there's someone going, boring, oh, get to the point, yawn. And the thing is, I can see you smiling, and the point is, we all do it. It is probably one of the worst things you could do. But we're humans and we've got unconscious bias. So there are ways we can get around this. We can shut down our unconscious bias by firstly recognizing we have a bias. 100% of what we've got to move to is 95% is being aware of what you actually do. And the other 5% is then easy because you've done the other thing many times before. So if you've got someone out there that is literally giving a presentation and you think you've heard it all before, you can do one of two things. You can switch off completely and go and do something else, or you can listen intently as to, well, even if I've heard it all before, maybe there's a little nugget in here that I wasn't listening to before. Maybe because my brain was saying, boring, heard it all before, not going to learn anything here. If you shut that part of your brain down, and believe you me, it's easy to do when you practice. You can practice it now, I'm going to say boring. And what I want you to do is just to concentrate on not being bored. You ready? Boring, yawn. Said it all before, done this, done that, seen the t-shirt, got the t-shirt, seen the video, cleaning the video. Now, that's all boring stuff, wasn't it? Okay. But if you can actively practice on just listening through it and saying there's going to be something that's going to be important here in a minute, we'll find out what's going on. Now, the interesting thing is, if someone has locked on to that part of this discussion, they may have woken up thinking, what's he on about? What's he saying that for? And that's what we want to be doing. We want to be engaging our thinking brain. And it's as simple as that. We just need to think about what's happening. Have I heard that? Yes. Is it important? Yes, maybe no. Park it. Move on. Keep thinking. We can multitask. Even men can multitask, by the way. It's a myth that men can't multitask. Because in presentations, we do it all the time. We think about what we're going to have for dinner because we're bored, and yet we're still listening because we can't shut our ears off. And it is funny, CK. It is funny, and that's the interesting part about this. You can have fun doing this. Do you remember the days of the bingo card in businesses where there were, 9 sayings or 9 words that someone always says, and then you're actually going to, in a meeting, you're sort of ticking off how many times they've said, this company is futuristic. Oh yeah, another futuristic. We're engaging in our people. Engaging, but that's another one. And we used to play BS bingo, bullshit bingo, we used to call it, because that's what was coming out of the person's mouth. They were just literally repeating something time and time and time again because they liked the sound of their own voice. And the thing is, that's where we've got to get away from. We've got to actually see people for who they are, not who we think they are. And that's where unconscious bias is going to kick in. So the method of today, the moral of today is don't think you know it all. Throw your unconscious bias out the door, and in a networking environment, go to someone who perhaps isn't smiling and get a smile on their face. There you go. There's your challenge for the day.
Well, it's easier said than done, Neville, because it's an accumulated thing. It could be valuable sometimes. It may not be relevant. It could be total junk. You don't know, but it is still in your mind. And the way we are calling it today, the subject is very apt. It is unconscious. Things which you don't know that you're doing. For instance, if you I'm an Indian, I have certain way of lifestyle, and if I go to Thailand and I follow my lifestyle in Thailand or any other country, they may think this lifestyle is not what we are looking at. So similarly, when a person from UK comes to India, they can turn into a complete spectacle. So we are all spectacle if we go to a different culture. All of us can be a spectacle when I go to Thailand, or if I go to US or Brazil, because I think that is something unconscious, and we are just doing it because it's there in our mind. For example, let me give an example. If you're in US, the standard hello is how are you? Right? That's the standard hello. They don't say good morning, hello. They will keep saying how are you? And they don't even wait for you to respond. I mean, maybe there is another, a person like me, like to say, hey, yeah, I'm fine. But the other person has moved on because for them, it's just howdy. How are you? Howdy. And then they just move on. So it's unconscious for Americans. Whereas other national may want to seriously consider this as a gesture of responding. So here, somebody asked me, how are you? And I am thinking, hey, he's really concerned about my health. I should tell him, oh, I'm fine or I'm not fine. I want to indulge in some discussion, but this person has already moved on because he has this subconscious method of doing things. So easier said than done, Neville. Any last comments on this?
You're right, it's easier said than done, but you've got to start. I mean, it's as simple as that. You need to, the first thing is be aware. So if you're about to ignore something because you've just seen something you don't like, think to yourself, hang on a minute, is that me just being biased? So you have to be aware of it initially to be able to make the change. And if you're not aware of it, it's never going to happen. So you're always going to do the same thing. Let's look at doing something simple, okay? Because this is about having a habit, okay? Well, let's see how quickly you can break that habit. I wear a wristwatch, and I wear it on my left hand all the time. I never take it off. So here's something everybody could do. If you've got a wristwatch, take it off and put it on your other arm. And then work out when you stop doing that. Hang on a minute. Oh, yeah, it's over here. Just work out, when you actually stop doing looking at the wristwatch on the left hand and look at it on the right, because you have changed your habit. Now, I've got added advantage here because this is pretty heavy watch. This is not light. Okay. So I can actually feel it now consciously. Okay. Unconsciously, I'm still going to do that. But consciously, I can feel this over here. And the interesting thing is, it won't take you very long. Forget about 21 days to change a habit. It might take you a few hours. It might take you a couple of days, but it will certainly be less than a week, because you're going to be now more aware of it. You're going to say, oh, that's pretty stupid. It's over this side. And you can say that to yourself, okay, because no one wants to be stupid. Okay, no one wants to stick out. But the thing is, only you will know. No one else will know. Especially if you're in an open environment. If you go like that and then go like that, no one's going to even notice. Okay, so that's one little exercise you can do that will see if you can change a habit, and then you can say, actually, it's pretty easy to do. So once you've practiced one thing, you can go and practice something else. But it is a limiting factor in your personal and business development. And that's really the message of today. Unconscious bias could really negatively affect your business and your business growth. And here's the knock on here. Let's just say that person is a dignitary, very quiet individual, doesn't smile much because it's just not, they're shy. It's not their persona. Okay? They're the ones that got the problem, not you. And if you were to go over to them and have a nice, friendly chat, they could be friends for life. And they could open doors for you, even just personally, just to make you feel brilliant, make you feel good, make you feel part of that person's network. But you'll miss that opportunity because of your unconscious bias. So there is a moral here, particularly in the business world. Put your unconscious bias to one side and get on with it. Because if you don't, you're missing an opportunity. Who knows where that opportunity will take you? Fascinating discussion. We tried to wrap it up in a fairly short period of time. There are so many examples of unconscious bias in our life. Listeners can put in comments about where their unconscious bias has taken them, how it's affected them. And the point is, a lot of people don't even know they've got one. But you have. And now to find out is, what is it? What does it do? Is it really helping you? Because it could be helping, but the likelihood is it probably isn't. So fantastic discussion today, CK. It's a huge arena, and it really will tell us more about who we are than who other people are.
Naval, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and giving so much wisdom about this very important subject. I think the message is your subconscious bias can make you a successful person in life, but the same subconscious bias can also make you a failure. It depends on the situation. So I think it is important for all of us to understand what is our unconscious bias. So I think we should spend some time understanding our personality. And I think we are running a series. If you have an opinion, you can share with us and we can come back on the same subject, because this is a very big subject. We cannot finish off in 30 minutes. So if you write to us, we can bring that particular subconscious bias as a discussion point in future. Naval, thank you so much. And I will catch up with you next week, same time. You have a nice weekend.